Then, another big challenge is, globally engaged faculty. Right? So we, as a land-grant university, we have lots of faculty. Many of you here in this room are doing lots of international research. Right? We have actually for NC State, it's very interesting. We have more than 600 foreign-born faculty. Right? So that's a very high percentage of faculty. Then, we have lots of faculty. I know many of you travel overseas. Last time we checked, about 30% of faculty travel for research, conference, or different activity, teaching, engagement. So about 30% of faculty travel. I'm sure most of you here travel overseas. So but we need to have a faculty development program for those who have not traveled as much, right? To get everybody prepared to teach a student with global content. So that's our next thing. Then we really need to utilize our faculty more organized way to help our faculty to utilize their research strength to develop more multi-million-dollar international grant. I think that's what we're really lacking right now. We're doing lots of other good things, but we don't really see international related research grant. I mean, we have lots of grant collaborating with international collaborator. Just to show you some data from Manwani's database. Right now we have 644 grant. They check a box say this is international related, right? Which is very impressive. But we also need to, with our strategic focus, in those major areas, we perhaps need to work more closely with our partner university, strategically select partner university with each particular thing to do more those a big grant. I think we're moving to the right direction right now. Moving forward as an engaged university, prepare our students and have a more focused, integrated research, global focus, think globally but acting locally, locally responsive, globally engaged. We really have to get all those things done nicely after really working hard with our strategic partner and curriculum integration, have engaged the faculty, actively engaged faculty, not just once or twice. Global focused research and a big initiative like our global health, and we can have a few others, right? As we getting close to our end of strategic planning, I think that's what we really need to do to identify a few more global focused research areas. Global engaged student, of course, we need to increase, study abroad number, and service learning, and other engagement, then global extension, economic development. We really need to bring some of those investment or some of those linkage back to North Carolina to help us to develop a local economy.
Thank you all for coming. It's great to see you here today. And this is a particular pleasure for me to introduce the nominees and the two winners. B.K. Kohler and I from College of Engineering invited and conspired to create this award because there are so many people across campus who do so much to make our institution vibrant and diverse and interesting, and we thought we needed to have a means to recognize them, and that's what we're going to do today, and hopefully we'll do this every year into the future. International travel is it's a wonderful affliction for those of us who do it, and I suppose most of us in this room are similarly afflicted, so I congratulate you on that, and the nominees and the two winners today are certainly suffering from this illness as well. If you'll permit me, though, I'm going to quote a poem that my mother used to recite to me that I didn't really understand until I received this same affliction of international travel. And with apologies to the fact that Rudyard Kipling was a colonialist and all the excesses of colonialism, he wrote a wonderful poem called The Road to Mandalay. And it turns out Burma was the first place I traveled to as a professional. And deep in that poem, I will paraphrase, he says something like this in his 1892 poem. If you've heard travel calling, you'll never hear anything else. true for those of us who do this, and particularly for our nominees and our winners today. So with that, I'll introduce one at a time the 5 nominees who weren't selected for the ultimate award, but perhaps in future years. And I guess they'll come up, we'll have a photograph, a violin, and the nominees. And the first one will be Dr. Maria Carrera, Associate Professor of Epidemiology and Public Health. Safe to say that any of these nominees could have received the award itself. In fact, when the International Operations Council deliberated, we sort of threw our arms up and said, well, how can we possibly choose among all these great nominees? But we figured out a way to do it. Dr. Stefan Franzen, Professor of Chemistry. Is he with us today? Yeah, okay. You recognize him. Dr. Jonathan Kramer, Teaching Professor of Music and Art Studies. Dr. Michelle Schroeder-Moreno, Assistant Professor in the Department of Crop Science. Is Michelle here? Yes, no. Okay. And Dr. Robert Young, Professor of Industrial Systems Engineering. Okay. Now, I had agreed when I planned to do this with Chantel, who's here somewhere, I'm sure, to help organize all this, she's working, that I would invite the 2 winners up one at a time, but I've reconsidered that. And given the conversation that Erin and Heidi and I had just a few minutes ago outside, I think it's appropriate to have them both come up and we'll recognize them together, say a few words about them to start with. I think it's especially appropriate because they work together, and it represents kind of the interdisciplinary, cross-discipline kind of approach that many of us at NC State have, and we need to celebrate. So let me talk about each of them a little bit, and we'll have them both come up and welcome them. Well, actually, why don't you guys come up for this? So you can stand here while I say these nice things about it. All right, Dr. Heidi Hobbs is currently the Director of International Programs in the College of Humanities and Social Sciences. She's also the Director of the Master of International Studies program in the School of Public and International Affairs, and Professor of Political Science. And Dr. Rick Kearney, who is here, was the nominator. Thank you. Heidi's done many, many things on campus. She serves currently as co-chair of the Committee of International Programs. She also serves on the International Operations Council. And she's done many, many things, including building the Masters of International Studies program from just a handful of students to more than 75 today. And so that itself is a great service to our campus. And so Heidi, thank you for that. Heidi is an expert in many things, including the author of 3 books. One is called Crossing Borders, International Studies for the 21st Century. Another is called Pondering Post-Internationalism, a Paradigm for the 21st Century. And finally, City Hall Goes Abroad, the Foreign Policy of Local Politics. So you can see the merging of disciplines with travel. Okay. Erin Sills is in my home department, Forestry and Environmental Resources. And Erin was nominated by Dr. Barry Goldfarb, who's Department Head in Forestry, and Dean Bob Brown from the College of Natural Resources. Erin is Associate Professor of Forest Economics and Coordinator of the International Programs in the Department of Forestry and Environmental Resources. She does many things, including chair the International Endowments Committee within the department, and stirs up lots of activity with respect to the student chapter of the Society of Tropical Foresters and study abroad programs. She's led very many study abroad programs and created a model for those in the department and college as well. She's been to Latin America, works extensively in Brazil and Indonesia, and has for many years and continues to. And her disciplines cross many subject areas. She's an economist by training. She's an expert in what we call REDD, reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, so global climate change kinds of issues, as well as in the evaluation of ecosystem services. So with that, congratulations. Okay, both of them will make some remarks now. We'll start with Dr. Hobbs, and then Erin will come up.
Well, I looked out into the room and I was pleased to see that there were 5 either Relations Council members who selected me, and particularly Dan Robeson, Bylin Lee, and Bob Kopersberger, who was also instrumental in creating it. I was very humbled to be selected because the candidates were excellent. I was given 3 questions to answer in my remarks regarding how I got started in international engagement, how I maintained that interest, and where I might go from here. And I'd like to respond to those questions with a couple of stories. While I was interested in international affairs from a very young age, I wasn't able to study abroad. I didn't get to travel internationally till between the first and second year of my master's degree. I was at the University of Georgia, and like many young people at that time, I strapped on a backpack and went off to Europe to backpack across many different countries. We had a great time and saw many things. When I returned, just as the fall quarter was getting underway, there was a big message on the chalkboard in the graduate student lounge that said, "Where the hell is Heidi Hobbs?" and it was signed by the department chair. And so, I couldn't backpack into Europe. I got there right before classes started, and I had no idea what to expect, and I went immediately to his office. And he told me that I was going to be a teaching assistant for the introductory American government course, starting the next day. And I would then be expected to teach my own section in winter and spring. We were on a quarter system. I was shocked. I looked at him and I said, "I'm specializing in international relations. Why would I be teaching American government?" And he told me something that I've imparted to my students since then that was a very important truth. You must know about yourself, your country, and its government to be able to understand others. It was something interesting to think about. It was a learning lesson. And over the years, I've taught American government many times, and I've learned to love it. And Bob Clute was right. It did help me to understand others. My second story comes from my arrival at the University of Southern California for my PhD almost 30 years ago in the fall of 1981. I was a native of Atlanta. I had never been west of Louisiana, New Orleans to be exact. We would go down there for the Sugar Bowl because the University of Georgia had a pretty darn good football team back then. And so I didn't really know what to expect. I remember that fateful day as I came over the mountains and looked down on the Los Angeles basin. First off, we couldn't see it very well because it was full of brown smog. And I thought, wow, I've come a long way. I was overwhelmed. I began my studies and learned something about California etiquette quite quickly. If you were planning to meet someone at a certain time and they said yes, that only meant maybe, and the time was very fluid. If they said maybe, it meant no way. Now, for my southern sensibilities, this was very hard to accept. People in the South, if they said they were going to do it, they were going to do it, and they were going to be there on time. I found 2 new friends who were suffering from similar realizations. A woman, Sabia Khan from Lahore, Pakistan, and a man, Ahmed Gamani, from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. We became the best of friends and are still in touch today. What brought us together was that we came from traditional cultures. Perhaps we had different practices and religions, but our expectations about others and ways to relate to each other were very similar. We wanted to be on time, and if you said yes, we expected you to be there. Our interaction impressed another lesson upon me that I hold out to my students today. People are people. They have the same wants, needs, fears, and desires. And we must look beyond our personal biases to see these similarities as we meet people from around the world. In conclusion, where do I go from here? I've been very fortunate to have excellent support here at NC State from both my department, particularly the director of our School of Public and International Affairs, Rick Kearney, and the dean and associate dean of my college, Jeff Braden and Vicki Gallagher. I've been given great freedom here to create a study abroad program and a dual degree with an international institution. I've been able to travel to places I've never been before and look forward in the next few months to go to India, another place I've never been that will develop our university relationship with Terry. In conclusion, I want to share what I received from North Carolina State with my students. One of the neat things about getting this award is it comes with a $500 travel grant. And I'm going to use that money to establish a study abroad scholarship for my Master of International Studies students to participate in the summer program that I created. I've been trying to drum that thing up for a long time, and so I'm hoping that by giving that $500 award, that will prompt others to say, wow, maybe that's a great thing to donate to. So towards that end, I'm donating the cash award that I'll receive today to establish that scholarship and hope it will encourage others to contribute. Thanks again to my many friends here at NC State. I look out here and I know so many of you. My family is here today. My husband and my 2 kids are joining me. And many of my students that I see here and those that will come along after that will push me to do more. Thank you very much.
This award, especially in front of this group that I know all of you work very hard to make international experiences available for our students and increase the international profile of the university, address important international issues. I'm sure that every single one of you has suffered through some of the challenges of international work, whether it's trying to understand the mysteries of the travel reimbursement system, or dealing with contracts across institutions in different countries, or maybe struggle through those last few pages of a dissertation written by one of our international students that needs some extra support in terms of getting their great ideas up to the standard and into a dissertation that will be acceptable to the university. So we all have those frustrations, but we all get the tremendous rewards from international work. So when I was thinking about this award, I was thinking of what some of those highlights have been for me. And it's been the things like coming back from a study abroad program, a study tour in Mexico with undergraduates, some of them who have never been out of the country, and having them tell you how this has completely changed their worldview. And they look around and they see people differently. The Latino population here suddenly is not some other group of people. Those are the people that hosted them when they were in Mexico. Right? So it's that tremendous change in world perspective. It's graduating some of those international doctoral students and having them go back to universities in their home country, knowing that you contributed to development of human resources in those countries, and now you have a colleague there to work with, someone who will be a future research partner for you, hopefully for the university, a future friend, really of the United States is what we're doing when we educate these international students. On the fun side, it's working with colleagues, spending time like we just did at Terry University, a program that Heidi Hobbs helped put together, and a number of us from different departments, different colleges went to Terry and spent time there. So getting to know our colleagues here at NC State through the mechanism of all of us moving to Terry for a couple of weeks and spending time there together. So all of those are the rewards, the incentives, I think why we keep doing international work. And of course it's all made possible, as Heidi said, by the great support we get, I think at all levels of the university. Certainly in my department, our department head, Barry Goldfarb, has always been very supportive. College of Natural Resources, Dan Robeson, Bob Brown, really support international. And this whole event is testament to the fact that the university supports international activities. It's the reason I'm still at NC State. It's a great place to be if you believe in the importance of internationalization and giving international experiences to students. We operate under constraints, but to the degree possible, there's support there, and definitely everyone believes in the value of internationalization. So I got the same 3 questions that Heidi got. I didn't do quite as good a job at sort of strictly following those, but I did think back to how I got started in my international program here. And it was 1997 when I was hired as an instructor to help coordinate international programs in the Department of Forestry. When I got here, I asked the person who had been the interim instructor and coordinator of international programs before I started what I was supposed to do. And I was told I was supposed to post all the flyers that we get promoting study abroad and international activities on the bulletin board outside my office, number 1. And number two, there was a group of students organizing a study tour to Belize in a couple months at that point, I think. And I should sort of keep track of those students and make sure that study tour went well. So that's where I got started. And to some degree, I still do the same thing. There's no longer that much stuff to post on the bulletin board, but a lot of what I do is about facilitating the flow of information, getting information about opportunities out to people, trying to connect people who are working on similar things. So it's about spreading that information around. And we still have study programs in the Department of Forestry, as Dan Robeson mentioned. No longer run by students, things have become a little bit more formalized, but also no longer just one program per year. We've got a tremendous number of programs going this year. I'm no longer running any of them. All I'm doing is sort of prodding and supporting and cheering from the sidelines. Again, many of you here have run these programs that I try to support in various ways, but that's really taken off. So I just wanted to mention a couple of the ways that I've worked to expand the program from just posting things on the bulletin board and supporting the students. I think one of the key ways for me has been in creating opportunities for graduate students. And that is mostly in terms of sort of opening up, weeding out opportunities that don't require a lot of funding, don't require a lot of support, to sort of put an opportunity to travel internationally or to do international research in front of graduate students, and they jump on it. Right? So this has been a group that's been fantastic for me to work with. We have a Master's International program that combines Peace Corps and graduate programs. I'm a student in Cape Verde now, for example. We have graduate students with very small seed grants tack on research onto international study programs. We have our group of students who work in the International Society of Tropical Foresters, and I'll put in a plug for them. They're putting on a big symposium this Friday on forest certification in the global context. You would all be welcome to come, I'm sure. So I work to support those graduate students and open up opportunities for them. And I find that that's really the group that can, in some senses, lead the rest of the university. They come back and as teaching assistants, they inspire undergraduates. As research assistants, they allow faculty to build those international research programs. So that's really a group that I've focused on. The other thing that my predecessor told me when I arrived was that I should maybe stick to posting things on the bulletin board and helping the study tour because I didn't want to spend too much time on administration. I should focus on my research, right, and not get too engaged in promoting international activities. So the way I found to address that is to bundle it all together. I think really that's one way forward is look at how faculty can become engaged in international activities. So just to give you an example of that, one of the study tours I led in 2005, I think, was to Costa Rica. And we focused on their program of payments for ecosystem services, a new incentive program they had to encourage landowners to conserve forests. So we took graduates and undergraduates, we focused on that topic. When we came back, a group of the students and the faculty wrote a publication that published, so there we were starting to combine study tour and research. We went on to get an NSF grant, and one of my graduate students got a supplemental grant to go back and study that program. So we had a research program built on that study tour initially that got us into the topic. The graduate student who worked on that program is now teaching at a university in Chile, and I'm continuing to write grants with him that potentially will involve new students here. So the package sort of comes back together. That experience in Costa Rica is what's led me partly into this work on reducing emissions from deforestation and degradation, because Costa Rica is a pioneer in that area. So that's worked for me, and I think it can work for faculty across the campus. One way I've tried to make that happen is, for example, with the International Science and Education grant we had for work in Chile, which supported other faculty to do the same combination of research, taking students on study abroad programs, extension in that case, undergraduate interns, graduate students doing research, and put it together into one package so that we can address that time constraint, and we can move beyond spending the 10% of our time on posting flyers and make it integral to what we do and to our students' programs here. So with that, I'll again return to my thank you to all of you